And a good day to you here on this Wednesday during the Michigan bye week. Bye week this Saturday. Then they'll be back at it for the second half. As you know, we're ready to talk about some Michigan football with you here this afternoon. And we kick things off. We are at the midway point in the Michigan football season. They play 12 regular season games, and Saturday concluded the midway point as they dropped that game 27-17 to Washington. As you know by now, puts them 4-2 on the season. Gives us plenty of things to talk about. I'll give you my outlook for the second half for the Maize and Blue. I'll tell you what I have planned for the bye week. We're going to start with some midterm grades. I never liked final exams. I never liked the report cards. I don't think I like midterm grades either. And I don't think Michigan, they're not going to like their midterm grades when they look at them either. It's a tough one, when you look over it. If they would have won the game, it's a pretty big deal. They win the game on Saturday, these grades would look a lot different. But they didn't. So I had to take my red pen out and be as honest as I could when it came down to grading Michigan. Remember, this isn't the final grade for Michigan. This is just where they sit at the midway point, at least what I think when it comes down to it. And we start out on the offensive side for Michigan. Michigan's offense, they had to replace all 10 players of 10 out of 11. Colston Loveland missed the games. You know that by now. And the coaches, that was something they had, head coach, the deal. So there's no curve on that. I looked at it overall, and I came to the grade of D- for Michigan. Now, if you think that's harsh, I mean, it is a harsh grade. I mean, it's almost a failing grade. It's almost an F. But when you look at, for me, I looked at the scoring offense in the country at the midway point. Boise, it has an unbelievable, they're averaging over 50 points a game. Miami of Florida, 47. Indiana, noteworthy. They are a top 3 offense as they sit there scoring at 47.5 point clip. Ohio State, not too shabby either at number 4, scoring 46 per game, averaging 46 per game. And there's Michigan at 100. Now, the last 2 years, Michigan had those easy games, easy first 3 games like East Carolina, UNLV, BG, UConn. I mean, you go through all of them. But the numbers were incredible. Like JJ McCarthy, he's, this, and Michigan had so many superlatives. And the only thing you could say is, they hadn't really played anyone. And in this case, they have played, some teams. But I don't know, I didn't factor that in. I looked at it, the quarterback position, people like to say it is what it is, and that's where they're at. Well, I mean, it's bad. It's bad in the first half. The hope, I think by now looking at it, you have to do a little bit of guesswork. They hoped Tuttle was going to be ready after spring, in that he would have been up for game number 1 and that he would have been their starter. We know that wasn't the case, and they had to go to 2 backups, and neither of those guys performed well. Turnover machine with the one in Davis Warren, and Alex Orji's not a quarterback. He's the thing with Orji is that if you're going to only throw the ball for 32 yards in one game and 86 yards in another game, you need to be like Denard Robinson on the ground when you're running the ball. You need to be like Vince Young. And Alex Orji's not that. I mean, that's a little bit of a surprise to me. We talked about Alex Orji all off season, and we knew we were talking about, what's he got to do with a completion percentage But the thought is that he was going to be special on the ground, that he was going to be like Denard Robinson, and that you would work with him, especially with a defense. We'll get to them. But you think, that he was just going to be someone that was going to be a terror on the ground, and he's not. He's not a special quarterback. I thought maybe that once he got his feet under him after the USC game, you would see improvement there, but you didn't really see that against. He ran for 43 yards against USC, but there was nothing there that you're like, oh man, you really have to watch out, man. He is something on the ground. Not like that. And we all know he got benched during the Washington game. So the quarterback position and the quarterback room, it really does drag everything down. A good quarterback is going to elevate everything. There's a lot of people like, oh, the Michigan wide receivers, they got to run better routes. They're no good. It's recruiting. It's like, what do you mean? Like, give me a quarterback that can put the ball on a receiver, and you'd be talking a lot differently. Look, it's got to be a little bit hypothetical, and but I know it's part of it. People are like knocking everything. I don't think the wide receivers, they need to run better routes. When I watched Amari and Walker in the first drive in the third quarter, Michigan's best drive of the year, on that third down, he just ran down the field and cut over the middle. You know what Jack Tuttle did? Hey, put the ball right on him. And then good on Walker that he really took a shot and could have fumbled. He didn't. He hung on to it. That had nothing to do with route running or route trees or recruiting or anything else. That was a wide receiver going out when it was third and 10, I think. Washington expected Michigan to throw the ball, and Tuttle sat back there and fired a strike right on him. And guess what? Great route tree. No, it was a quarterback making a play. And later in that drive, when Colston Loveland scored the touchdown, it wasn't any schematics of, they ran. No, they didn't. Loveland just went out into the end zone, and Tuttle freelanced a little bit and then threw the ball in there and made a play and scored a touchdown. And you could tell even when Tuttle went in with Michigan, even though he just threw one pass to Bredesen, the rest were all runs, including Donovan Edwards' 39-yard touchdown run. It was that even the defense was like, ooh, now okay, we can't just sit up on the wide receivers anymore. And, now we got to play a quarterback. It was different. So my point, I think everybody knows, whether you feel like it's beating a dead horse or anything else, a good quarterback is going to elevate all of it. Now, Michigan needs to have a better play from their offensive line. And you get subpar offensive line play, and you get even worse quarterback play. That's going to make everything sag. I've heard people say, well, Michigan doesn't have a number one wide receiver. Well, they kind of do. Colston Loveland is a wide receiver. You want to call him a tight end? All right. He's the number one pass catcher. We're going to split hairs. He's the number one option in the pass game. He runs routes like he's a wide receiver. And the opposing team, when they're talking about the passing game, they put him number one. That should open things up for the rest of the receivers if, again, you have a quarterback that can deliver the ball down the field and put it on the wide receivers. And that drive that Michigan had in the third quarter, which I think is the best that they've had all year long. They did throw it to Amari and Walker down the field. They did target Samaj Morgan, and he went for 16 yards. 3 different receivers, along with the running game, complementary football. It was amazing, to see. And it was like, oh, wow. It was like an oasis in the desert, passing the ball and spreading it around and then using the run and getting down there and scoring a touchdown. It was like you hadn't seen it in years. Certainly you hadn't seen it in games, competent quarterback play. But, so the offense, unfortunately, when it comes down to it, they end up almost getting a failing grade. I didn't put them in a failing grade because Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards are both a tremendous 1-2 punch. And, we've seen it, whether it was Mullings, the 63-yard run on that 3rd and 1 against the USC from the zone 20, or We've seen in that game, in the last game, we've seen Edwards showing flashes of big game Dono, and the run game has been good. But when you have that bad of a passing game, it's hard to get a passing grade when it comes down to the offense. That is where I am at with the offense. Again, I put it and I give it a D minus for Michigan's offense. Let's look at what some of the people are saying when it comes down to the report card and grading things out. Mark is rolling out some A pluses, and he says Graham, Zavada, Stewart, and Mullings an A plus. He puts Grant on the list here as giving him an A. Johnson and Loveland an A minus. That must be Will Johnson. The rest, he's having a hard time finding a B. I get that. Let's see. Sam says once more said he's making some of his own changes, like loud music at practice, ? That's a major distraction. This isn't the pros. Well, anything you do, and at this point when it's been disappointing, is going to be looked at as a negative. I don't think that that's that big of a deal. I'd make the case that college football, and everybody would have to agree with this, Sam, it is as much like the pros, and the pros like college football schematically, paychecks, everything else, NIL. It's as close to the pros as it's ever been. I mean, yeah, we're talking about 5 years ago. Like, no, these guys are students first. These guys are football players, and they're getting paid. And so, yeah, music at practice to me is a nothing. Mark throwing some more grades out there. He says fair. Sam has a lower grade. And Hadley getting in. Good to see him. Special teams has his best grade. He gives it an A. Every other position pretty well below that. Overall grade, a C. Go Ducks, which is a weird thing to say, but we understand that you're saying it because you want to see them beat Ohio State. I don't know. I think I get it. I think that you'd like to see Ohio State just lose because they put, all of this money, and it's championship or bust, and they have the Big Ten upstart in their first year anyways. Oregon, tag them. It would feel good, but I don't know. Like I get it. I get it. Sam is saying Indiana is better than us. I know that's weird. That is weird. Ferris says we got to 5,000. Yeah, what I would like to know, how many people that are watching this, and if you're watching this after the fact, I do go back and read the comments that are made during the YouTube podcast. If you're listening on the pod on the radio in your car, you can use the comment section there. I checked that. It's underutilized. My question, though, for you, if you're not going to do it here, and then if you're watching it after the fact, I would love to have this watch party, go out, whether it's at Illinois or at Indiana. But I got to have I want to know if some people will show up. If everyone, like I know Smash, he came in for the spring game, and I saw him. He was in from California. I've seen some others. Somebody was in from D.C. that came by. I don't know how many people are local or would be interested in coming on out at a selected restaurant, sports bar to watch that game. So tell me where you're at. And if there's a few people, I only need a couple. Look, we'd like to have 100, like to have we'd like to have all 5,000 out, but let's just see. At least a couple before we're talking about going out. I think I can I'll find a place that can hook me up, and I can do the podcast, the post-game live after Illinois or after Indiana. That's what I'm talking about. Toby is just going with a D overall. He's got Mullings as a positive, and yeah, Mullings certainly is a positive. Let's go to the defensive side. Think it over. A D overall is about where I'm at, and there's the offensive grade. Not fun to look at. Got to hit the books. Got to study. Got to do all that, and there's the reason. Part of it. We went through the other ones. Michigan 100th in scoring offense. Now the report card on the defense. Corey's going to come on up from Memphis. Let's go. Let's go, Corey. The report card for the defense. Defense better than the offense? Well, I give the defense overall a D. I would say that this is a harsh grade. It is a harsh grade. Now, I gave the defense an F when I looked at it. I said, all right, what's the defense? I give them an F against Texas. Texas came out, missed that first field goal. They had the flag and everything on that first one, and then they missed a field goal. But then they went touchdown, field goal, touchdown against the Michigan defense. And that 24-3 at the half, that game was over. And that was on the defense. Now the offense didn't do anything either. They went punt, field goal, 3 and out, fumble, interception. That's how it went. It went punt, field goal, interception, fumble for Michigan in the first half against Texas. That was the offense, but the defense, they get an F in that game. USC, and I give them an A in the first half against USC, but the second half dragged that down a little bit. I do credit the Michigan defense with making the final plays when USC, there's some time left on the clock. It was bad clock management by throwing on that. Was it the second down or third down? I forget, but that enabled USC to have time to get down and potentially kick a field goal in just a 3-point game. So that was a hairy situation, but that's not on the defense. The defense had to make some plays, and they did there at the end. So they get a passing grade against USC. Minnesota, Michigan was up 24-3, as we all know, heading into the fourth quarter against the Gophers. And then Orgy threw the interception, and then there was a big punt return on special teams. I know Hadley wanted to give a big special team shout out. Certainly Zavada. I don't know. Am I giving Doman? Doman, I'm not giving him an A. Maybe a B minus if I was just thinking it. I'd have to look at all of those. But there were some big spots for Tommy Doman, which felt like he came up a little bit short with his leg. But my point was, going back to Minnesota, the offense and the special teams put the Michigan defense in a bad spot. Certainly the tempo, and then there was the, helter-skelter, the onside kicks, controversial and all that, but they hung on and they won that game. And then against Washington, I don't know, they needed to, and again, you had a fumble and an interception late by the offense, but you needed to, if Michigan was going to win that game, you needed to keep Washington, it felt like under 24 points. I don't know. So, but I give them a D. A lot of it, I think about, the talent, and now moving forward, the secondary has been bad. There's really no other way around that. Will Johnson's a good player, and Jair Hill has had his moments, but he has also had those on the other side. And I say the same thing about Zeke Berry. Sometimes like, hey, Zeke Berry, a playmaker. Then other times like, wow, he looks like he's out of position. Page the same way. Right down the list with all the guys in the secondary, it's been they've underperformed, underwhelming. They look like, just by watching them, that they don't have the greatest fundamentals. And they're not very good communicating the defense. And it doesn't feel like overall it's well coordinated, especially talking about the guys standing up on the defense. And the depth doesn't look that hot. That does go back to the coordinator. And for Wink, this is how it goes when you have what looks like some talent out there and you come in and you have a resume like Wink. And so let's just look at the numbers for Wink here. Here's the scoring defense up to date today in college football. Ohio State, statistically, with scoring defense, has the best defense in the country, giving up under 7 points a game. I put some other noteworthy games on here and how good the defenses are, at least through 6 games. Illinois is at number 12. That's noteworthy. That's Michigan's next opponent. Indiana, they've been doing so well on offense, but look at them on defense. They are doing pretty good on defense too. Number 14 in the country. Oregon, number 21. Michigan, number 56, checking in. And then when you give a lot, much is expected. And I have the list of the highest paid defensive coordinators in all of college football for 2024. The highest paid defensive coordinator in the country is Blake Baker, LSU's DC. He gets $2.5 million. That's more than most of the head coaches in college football. But number 2 on that list of highest paid defensive coordinators in all of college football is Michigan's Wink Martindale, who checks in with a big $2.3 million. Jim Knowles, who has that best defense over there, he's thinking, I want to get paid. Well, if they take it the distance, Knowles probably will get a big bump, and they all will. So considering what Wink's getting paid, I put that equation in, how Michigan's performed all the way through, that's why I give him a D. A D for defense, which is not what you want. It's been a D for disappointment. And that's it. Now, it feels like, I'm bagging on Michigan, but it's tough when you get the grades and you look and turn the paper over and you're, maybe hoping for a C or something. You want to get some C's out there? It's not really a great passing game or passing report. That's how I'm looking at it when it came down to it. So there it is. Let's look at some of the feedback when it comes down to it. Corey, D for defense. He understands. Ron asking me a question, what position group do I think needs the most improvement? Well, I'd say offensive line. Is the position group quarterback? I would say quarterback, offensive line, corners, safeties. If you want to just say, let me try it again so I can boil it down, make it a little bit quicker. They need a better play from the quarterback. They need a better offensive line, and they need a better secondary. Those are the top 3. If we want to continue after that, there's only so many position groups. I would look at the linebackers, and then it's not a position group, but the overall depth on defense. Excuse me. Seems like Michigan's been, I don't know if it's exposed there. It's been illuminating that Michigan, you could say, well, their strength and conditioning isn't as good, or they don't have the depth overall on defense. And if you look, nobody's really jumping out. Like, we know the Mason Grahams and the Kenneth Grants and TJ Guy has been nice in depth, and he's had to step up when Josiah Stewart or Derek Moore, those guys have been good. And so the edge position, but after that, is there anybody that you're going, Cameron Brandt has been playing a lot, but he doesn't flash where in a good way where you watch him say, oh yeah. And I don't know, are there any of the Rashawn Benny's good, but are there any other defensive linemen that you're looking at that have come in and you say, oh yeah, this guy's no, there's nobody like that. Linebackers the same way. I feel bad for myself. No, I should apologize. I thought Jayshon Barham, I bought into the hype. I thought he was going to be all Big Ten, maybe all American. I was expecting him to perform a lot better, and he's been meh. Maybe a little bit better than mid. I don't know. Mid makes you sound like you're bad, but so I don't know, a little bit better than that. And Hausman's the same way. Like, he's okay. He had the pick last game, but the linebacker play after, Rolder plays a little bit. Hood got in for a play or two. There's not a lot there. How many snaps can you play those guys? I don't have any depth at linebacker. And then, like I said, the secondary, it's not a lot of fun. Yeah, not a lot of fun to go through all that. So now we look towards the second half and what possibly could happen. Yeah, I've already been over this, Corey. The wide receivers, when you don't have a quarterback that the defensive backs are worried about, you're not getting open. Nobody's throwing the ball. I mean, maybe the wide receivers aren't worth anything, but when I feel like people say that the wide receivers aren't getting open, give me a good quarterback. When Tuttle was in there, guys looked like they were getting open just fine. And the guys looked like they were running their routes just fine. The quarterback was throwing the ball. When Samaj Morgan was going for 16 yards, it wasn't any precise route or any kind of scheme. He just threw it to him. When Amarian Walker cut in 20 yards down the field, there was no Jerry Rice kind of route. There wasn't any route tree that, somebody was drawing up all week, scheming them open. No, it wasn't. The guy just ran down the field, cut in, and then Tuttle put the ball on him, like you're supposed to do as a competent quarterback. And so that's it. Again, I don't know why it makes me yell, so I think it does trigger me when talking about the wide receivers. And a quarterback play, it's hard. You're so dependent on the offensive line and the quarterback when you're a wide receivers. And people say, well, they don't have a number one. Well, yeah, they do. They do have a number one. His name's Colston Loveland. He would be the number one pass catcher, maybe on every team, certainly on almost every team in college football. So they do have a number one pass catcher. They say, well, technically he's a tight end. Yeah, well, technically. But obviously, he's like a wide receiver, would be my point. And he is demanding double teams. And so if I'm a quarterback and I'm a coach and I know the other team is just they're saying, oh, man, I'm going to put number 18 up on the board when we're talking about defending the pass for Michigan. Well, sometimes I'm using Colston Loveland to get these other guys open. Throw them the ball. Target them. I don't know. So I will give everyone this. If you're adamant about that they don't run really good routes and they don't get open or they're not talented, I'll give you this. I haven't gone to the games this year. And if you're somebody that goes to the games and you're like talking to your friend and you're like, look, these guys just aren't getting open. Again, I think the defense can just sit in their back pocket because they're not worried about the ball going over their head. But I give that to you. When you're at the game, that is one of the things that you really are able to see that you're not really able to get a good feel for just watching the television copy. So I'll give that to you if you're somebody like Corey that's going through that. Toby's overall a little bit more optimistic than me, going a D+. Although he's specifically going to the defensive coordinator and marking him down, which I understand. Okay, now the next part is let's go to the outlook for the second half. It's color coordinated here. I put Illinois as a swing game. Michigan State, I think the two easiest games, are we all in agreement? When we look at the second half, Northwestern feels like a W. And then Michigan State, I think, is the second easiest game. It's at home. I know it's a rivalry game, so that it's certainly not, I don't think, easier than Northwestern, both of those games being at home. But those are two games that Michigan should win. And I'll tell you, for Sharon Moore and everything else, we know there's a certain amount of a break that you get by being a first-year head coach, but you have to win that game. You cannot, I can't see me feeling, now I'm not talking about that he's going to get fired, but I can't see this season turning out really well and Michigan having a good off season and people feeling positive about Michigan moving forward under Sharon Moore if he somehow loses to Michigan State at home. So they got to win that game. Oregon and LSU feel like losses right now. I know Oregon's at home, and hey, same thing that I said about Michigan State. Sharon Moore wants to make everyone feel good about him, almost regardless of what happens here in the second half. Go ahead and beat Ohio State down there on the road. That, I would like, I don't know, I say I'd like to test it out. The test part would be beating Ohio State, dropping some of these games in here, but then beating Ohio State, it does wonders. Look at Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh was great at Michigan this last 3 years, was able to turn things around. He was pretty good overall, but he couldn't beat Ohio State. And it almost cost him his job. There were a lot of people that thought it should have cost him his job. We know that. We talk about Ohio State all the time. So the swing games are both on the road at Illinois and then at Indiana. And you just start thinking about this, 8-4. So they've already lost 2. If they lose 2, I say just lose to Oregon and Ohio State, and then they end up 8-4. I'm sitting here today telling you that that's pretty good. That's a pretty good record. That wouldn't be all that bad. I think that right now 7-5 is the most likely. That's not a very pleasant thing to say, or I think read if you're watching this on YouTube, or to think about. But you start dropping some of these, like you drop that game to Illinois, next thing you're talking about is this team going to be bowl eligible. Because if you lose to Illinois, heck, you can lose to Indiana. Of course, then you would lose to Oregon and Ohio State. And then you're thinking about being bowl eligible. And if you're not, well, then it gets into the disaster area. I'm not going to sit here. It is a disaster area if they're not bowl eligible. It's at least something to say here. There's nothing I'm going to be harping on it. Let's see how they come out of the gate. A swing game against Illinois, and then a must win against Michigan State. Those are the kind of things that'll be talked about if these games don't go, even if they split them. It's going to be talked about that way. So it's at least something to ponder. Woo! All right. Let's take some of the feedback. FTC gets in and says, don't worry, we are winning out. Now, I think winning out is something that is worth also talking about, FTC. In the year of the Detroit Tigers, who had a 0.2% chance back on August 11th, and they're in position today to go up 2-1 in the divisional series against the Guardians. There is a spot where I would say that it's called the anything can happen. Stranger things have happened. Well, that's what I'll get to in a moment. Stranger things have happened when it comes down to sports. So while nobody would predict that, and I don't know if your tongue's in your cheek while you're typing that out or anything, stranger things have happened. So they've got a bye week, and they do have the hope there would be that Jack Tuttle got his feet wet, and he looks like he did on those 3 drives that he had for Michigan. When he came in, he had a touchdown. They had a touchdown drive that he authored, and then they had a field goal before the half, and then they came out with that drive that I've been talking about with a touchdown to Loveland. 17 points on 3 drives. I mean, the spark or the life that gave Michigan was amazing. It was they were back. I mean, woo! It was something else. Well, then that was followed by 2 3-and-outs and then a fumble and interception. So I'm choosing to look at those 3 positive. The first 3 drives that he had, which produced 17 points, and maybe good quarterback play can elevate everything. And I think that kind of talk will, if they go to Illinois, you start talking about it a little bit. You beat Michigan State. It's amazing what 1 win can do. 2 wins, and this conversation about look at the Tigers. That kind of talk is going to happen. Loring says 9-3 looks like a great year to me. Very possible, he says. He says the quarterback situation has set us back big time. If Michigan goes in the second half of this season and just loses one game, 93, 9-3. I agree. It is a great. After losing 2 games already, that would be great. I am with you on that. Ferris is talking about a 84 rematch, Tigers and Padres. That's what I'm rooting for. I've got no problem with that. I am also rooting and feeling like 84. Ferris, the Tigers in the American League Championship Series in 84 played the Royals. So we could have even with this. Who did I think the Padres beat the Cubs, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. So you can't get that on that side. The Cubbies aren't in it, but you could get a Tigers Royals American League Championship Series. That would make us feel very much like. And then if the Padres, they are up on the Dodgers after winning by 1 run yesterday, I'm with you on that. I'll take a couple more before I get to the bye week. CG says, Michigan lost so much, any team would be hurting. So, yes, I agree. But some fans think we are going to win every game. You know, sure. We all think that Michigan's going to win every game, even when they have what they have right now. Why not? I mean, you're a fan. Be optimistic. Be all of that. The thing that is hard, that even if you were thinking, well, coming off the championship and losing all this, I think there's a lot of people that are kind of patient. You probably don't want to hear like, oh, hey, they won a championship last year. You know, you can have an off year, which is true. One off year is all right. The only problem with college football, it just always feels like your trajectory is either heading up or it is heading down. And if it is heading down this year, it's down this year, but if it starts pointing where the trajectory is not just out, and it starts pointing like straight down, and that would be obviously 5 losses. Then it will feel like that Sharon Moore's up against it, even though it's just not going to be a fun off season. These last 3 off seasons were just so awesome. 5 losses is not going to be a very fun off season. So even you understand, and some people want to say give them a chance to rebuild, and I've heard there's no rebuild in college football, but with as many things that they have lost and how it's all working out with how the NIL is coming into play. Right before I came on, I read a statement from Ward Manuel, and he was talking about the $23 million that they're getting in revenue sharing, and Ward emphasized that, no, hey, don't worry, all the sports are going to get taken care of. I didn't say how he was going to divvy it all up, but I didn't like that. I mean, I don't know. I didn't like hearing that. What I would have framed it where Ward Manuel needs to be like, everybody praises Jim Harbaugh for saying, hey, Jim was talking about revenue sharing the whole time. Jim's not talking about splitting that $23 million up with all of the Olympic sports and everything else. Jim was talking about everything going to football. And so, it sounds great. Yeah, let's, everybody's still going to it's going to be great for everyone. Charter flights for the women's basketball team, scholarships galore for the field hockey team. Okay. But, I don't know. Where's all the money? I mean, how much is Portnoy going to fork over? Maybe they're going to have to name a building after him before long or something. I don't know. Sorry. That got me out of where I was at. Tigers 2 outs and 3 straight hits, and Earl Weaver 3-run homer versus Houston. All right. I don't know exactly. They beat Houston, which was nice. LG, Tuttle looks the part. Just needs to shake off the rust. Andre's jumping in. The Dono slip was a sure something. Last throw by Tuttle, just a fraction behind. There's positives to build on, and the platform is there. Dono doesn't slip. They get a call on the bear hug on Klein. It's pretty obvious. Are we talking about Michigan? You know, you rip some of the coaches when they say, just a play or two away. In Michigan's 5-1, it's a different story. When we say that, it's like, oh yeah, hey, I see what you're saying. When the opponents say that, it's like, oh, you crybabies. Ferris is just thinking about Illinois. I don't mind that. I'm sure. I'm with you. Don says Loveland might be number one, but they have to start looking elsewhere more often. I agree. A-Train's got a bunch of thumbs down. Yeah. I mean, it's thumbs down. It's thumbs down across the board. I mean, that's why this isn't a very fun show. But if you're somebody like, I just like the positive stuff and everything else, but I'm also reevaluating everything. It's beat Illinois. Let's see. They really need to beat Illinois before I start pulling the pitchforks out and the tar and the feathers, and I know that's stuff. The gallows are already out for plenty of people, and the tar is being heated up. I get that. I'm just saying I'm not quite ready to go there yet. Thomas, no QB, no wide receivers, no OL. Except for that, everything's great. Yeah, well, yeah. Washington lost more than Michigan, and they look better. They had a real QB and wide receivers. Yeah, that hurt. Watching Giles Jackson look like, Tyreek Hill, that wasn't any fun. They lost. They did lose as much, Corey, I think, if you break it down, the numbers. Ferris is wanting the solar car team. They need some money. His solar car team. Yeah, I know Michigan, all the sports need money now. Mark is saying I'm too young to remember the Earl of Baltimore. The best play in baseball is the 3-run homer. Yeah, I didn't know that it was attached to what Earl Weaver had to say. I did like Earl Weaver. I liked a couple. My favorite, they mic him up and he's out there. I like that when it came down to Weaver. A-Train says, he would like to see Orgy as the starter, Kirk Campbell gone, and they need someone who can run a better offensive scheme to spread the defense. Yeah, I'm going to say no to Orgy. Campbell, I'm not standing up for Kirk Campbell. I mean, he needs to have a much better second half. And you want someone who can do a better job with the defense. They don't look as good as they should. So, I mean, they get a D. So I'm going to agree with this last part. I understand where you're at with Campbell, but I don't know. Orgy is not something I want. John says, don't forget our sign guy was fired while other schools are still doing what they have always done. The sign guy got caught, so that's what happened there. He got turned in and somebody hacked his computer and all of that. So yeah, other teams are out there doing their thing, but they didn't get caught. I mean, you got to get caught. And then there you go. So I don't know what kind of point that is. Don't forget our guy was fired. He quit because he got found out. And then he said that he was gaining the system on his Netflix special. And then on the other side of his mouth was saying, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, it's gaining the system. I was like, come on, what's going on? Hey, I don't know. Now he's going on. Maybe I'm going to contact Connor Stallions and bring him on here. I got a few questions for him. Let's go. A-Train likes the show. John says, watch. I'll learn a lot. You mean watch Connor Stallions? Yeah. You know, I have a pretty good feel on Connor Stallions, on what went down there. Oh, maybe I will try to contact him and bring him on though, because I got questions for him. John says Michigan is at a disadvantage. Ask Urban Meyer. They're at a disadvantage because they got caught, advanced scouting, breaking bylaw 111 or whatever it was. I don't know. What do you want me to do about that? So it's everybody else's fault. Michigan doesn't have any fault in that. I don't know what to say about all that, John. Is Michigan getting, I don't feel like Michigan is getting screwed over necessarily. Not even necessarily. I mean, like, they got their hand caught in the cookie jar. Yeah, people were coming after him. You got to cover your tracks better. And, the other schools, catch them. I mean, remember right after it was all going on, there are all these people saying, yeah, well, the Michigan, they've got all this information on everyone else. But we haven't seen any of it. So if there was any other information, we'd have it out there. And then the other schools, and they could, maybe they're waiting to spring it on Ohio State. This would be a good week to do it. They get the good bang for their buck. They're getting ready to play Oregon. Maybe Thursday, what Stallions was saying, to bussin' boys or whatever. Maybe, I don't know exactly what. Maybe that they can spring all this and we'll have a new sign stealing, so to say, scandal. And this one will include Ohio State. So there we go. Yeah, I don't know, John. Who needs to step up? You want the NCAA? Do they have the goods on OSU? Well, let's do it. Here's a good question. What happened to all the transfer coming to the secondary? Mangum, the guy from Tennessee, Walker, and then the guy from UNLV, that was Ricky Johnson. Well, remember they got Amir Hall. He plays. On the injury report, Mangum has been on that injury report the whole time. Ricky Johnson and Walker, that's a good question. I think Walker's been on that. And I'm just trying to go off memory. I don't have the injury report. It feels like Walker, and I don't know, they brought Ricky Johnson in. You would think that if he could provide something, that he would be in that 2 deep. The 2 deep right now is Jair Hill, excuse me. And then after him, it's Amir Hall. And I think what we have seen, McBurrows is hurt. He sounds like he's going to be out for a long time. Pollard is the one that it looks like Miles Pollard was in the 2 deep. I don't know. You're asking me what happened to it. I don't know. Couple guys injured, and Hall's been the only one that's been able to go out there and get involved. So we'll see. John, I'll watch the Stallions thing. I thought I knew everything I needed to know about Stallions, but I'll watch it and we'll see. What happened to Babaloa? I don't know. Has he made his decision yet? I don't know. I don't know if he has. made his decision. I'm waiting. He's chilling. He doesn't have to. When you're as highly rated as Babaloa, you can just chill and wait for as long as you want. I mean, signing day's a long ways away, so he can just kick back and do whatever he wants. Now, you want to kick back and continue talking about Michigan. The way to do it is going to the Maize and Blue Review and signing up and joining by going to michigan.rivals.com. Talk Michigan all day. Talk Michigan all night. Oh, yeah, this Tigers thread's going to be popping during this game that we'll all be watching here, coming up a little bit after the top of the hour. All day, all night. You want to know recruiting? You want to know about Babaloa? Get in there. These guys got the latest. I'm in there. I used to hang out on Twitter. Now I'm hanging out in the den on the Maize and Blue Review. Join up. And, basketball right around the corner. Hockey, I know they've already faced off a little bit. I know the Red Wings start tomorrow night, all of that. We're mostly, though, 98% of the time, we're talking about Michigan. But we do have that 2%. And that 2% does go to the Tigers. And this is the things I'm doing during the bye week. I'm getting ready to watch every pitch of this Tigers game coming up. Tomorrow night, we got more Tigers baseball. And the Red Wings opener. I love, the opening. Let's rank the opening of sports season. College football, Labor Day weekend is the best for me. After that, I'm going to go with baseball. Tiger baseball, the opener, man. Nothing like it. It's always a Tiger. After that, I'm going to put the NFL, like week 1 of the NFL. So then you've got, what do we have left? The NBA and the NHL. I like, where the Pistons are at right now. If it was a different thing, no. I'll go with the Red Wings. Saturday, I've got 3 games that are must watch for me. You got the Red River and then Penn State at USC. Both of those games are at 3:30. I don't mind having 2 TVs out. And then the big one, Ohio State at Oregon. Hadley says, go Ducks. Excuse me. I feel like I'm going to pick Ohio State and I'm going to take the 3 points. So I root for I don't know about rooting. I'm not going to care if Ohio State loses, but I feel like I'm going to take the points and Ohio State. And then the Lions are back at it on Sunday in a revenge game against the Cowboys. How about that? That's where it's all at. Thanks so much for watching. I would love to see you over on the Den on the Maize and Blue Review. We're talking about all the stuff about Michigan, every player, the 2 deep, every player on the roster, every guy that has ever thought about taking a visit or Michigan could possibly flip when it comes to recruiting, everything that's going on there. It's ongoing. That's why I say all day, all night. Like to see you over there. And remember, get a hold of me. John, if you're somebody that's in Southeast Michigan, I want to watch a game with you. Let's go ahead. Let's go watch a game. Tell me where you live. Where are you at? Anybody in Southeast Michigan? Let's watch either the Illinois game. That is on Saturday, October the 19th, coming up a week from Saturday, or then we wait till November 9th at Indiana. We want to know. Ooh. John, well, I was going to say, if somebody, I could see making a drive. Oh, this would have been a bad omen. My L. K-Line bobblehead. He's all ready for the big game coming up. Old number 6. Let's do it. Will the Tigers win today? Al, he's saying, yeah. They just need to get, if you just told me, give me a split today, I would just take the split, because if they get that split, they will have none other than Tarek Skubal in Game 5 on Saturday. And you could say that you couldn't ask for anything more. No, you could ask for just a win over these next 2 days, but not too shabby. They just take one of these next 2, and you got Skubal on Saturday. And Saturday, what time's that game going to be at? That could alter that could alter my college football watching. So we'll see how that ends up going. John talking about meeting up over a 2 hours from Ann Arbor. Ooh. Let's see. Meet up at a Michigan home game. Well, the spring game. We do it for the spring game. At Illinois, at Indiana. We'll see how that ends up working out. Contact me. Let's do it. I'll watch that game. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks so much for watching. Would love the subscribers. Thanks so much for 5,000. Thanks to Ferris, especially. He's been promoting. Let's get us up to that 5,000 number. We got it. Let's get to 10 now. You won't hear from me until we get to 10 on that. So let's push it. Let's double up. Double that thing up and get to 10. Then it'll be it might not just be watching a game. It might be who knows what's going to happen then. Okay. Take care. Thanks for watching. Smash that like button, and we'll see you on Friday. So long.